Recently, Joshua Weissman made a $3 bowl of miso ramen. So today I'm going to make that recipe and compare it to this bowl of ramen that I bought here in Japan. So because I went by bike, I had to get a little bit creative with how I transported my ramen. There's my pot. Came with a little bit of nori in a separate piece of plastic, of course. And then in the bag, no leaks. Perfect. Hi, I'm Cassie and welcome back to my kitchen here in Japan, where I'm learning how to make Japanese recipes and showing you how to make them along the way. Normally when I do my research, I do it in Japanese, but every now and then someone like Joshua Weissman will come along and make a Japanese dish. So of course I just had to give it a go when I saw his but cheaper miso ramen. This is the first time that I'm making this recipe, so it's going to be a bit of a recipe review, and then at the end we're going to compare it to this miso ramen that I bought here in Japan. So let's get started. So this miso ramen is part of Joshua's But Cheaper series. So the point isn't to make it as traditional and as correct as possible, but rather to make it as budget friendly as possible. But having said that, I am used to making a lot of Japanese recipes, so I thought I would just point out the things that really stood out to me about the ingredients. And the first thing is the sheer amount of garlic. So although there are definitely ramen restaurants around Japan that specialize in putting in a lot of garlic in their ramen, generally it wouldn't use as much as this. The other thing is the use of shallots. Shallots are actually not very easy to find in Japan, and from what I can tell, they're quite seasonal as well. So I couldn't actually find any shallots, so I just went with a very small onion, the smallest that I could find, which is not exactly the same, but it's the closest I could get. Usually you would use either no onion or you would use a negi, which is a long green onion. My expectation is that the addition of these two ingredients is going to make our ramen taste a bit more like a ramen that you might find in America or in the UK, rather than a ramen that you might find here in Japan. But those are the only two things that really stood out to me about the ingredients here. So let's get on to preparing Joshua's meat. Gross. So first he adds in the meat and gives it a bit of a sear on both sides. I'm pretty sure this is to induce the Maillard reaction and make a tastier meat than if we had just started stirring it straight away. Then once we got a nice sear on both sides, that's when Joshua started to break it up. Now that it's all broken up and we've rendered out a lot of the fat, we are going to take it out and set it aside. Then, using that fat that has rendered out, we're going to add in the shallot, garlic and ginger. Then the sugar. Then we return the ground pork. Add the ground sesame. Ooh, my god. Whoops. And add the miso. There are loads of different types of miso, but one of my favorite for cooking this kind of thing is red miso. And now that everything is incorporated, we can put in our stock and dashi. The dashi powder looks just like the sesame seeds, so I got a little bit confused earlier. So now I've stirred it and there are no more clumps, so we're going to bring it to just under a simmer and then cover it and set it aside. But that is our entire soup base, so now we can go on to the toppings. There is no fresh corn in the supermarkets right now. I'm pretty sure that's another seasonal thing. Joshua, why do you have to be so extra? So now I'm using the canned corn for the buttered corn topping. Then it's just the nori, green onion, and finally the noodles. Whew, okay, so I have to say, even though none of the steps in particular were that difficult to do, as a whole it did take a little while to make, so it would definitely be easier for me to cycle and grab a bowl of ramen and come home. But let's plate these up and see how they did in terms of price and taste. Because this is a but cheaper recipe, first let's look at the prices. My entire shop cost me this much, which is this much per serving. Whereas my takeout ramen only cost me this much. Granted, I could have gone to a 100 yen shop for some of these, but most of the more expensive items I couldn't get in a 100 yen shop anyway. So overall, this gets a pretty low score for budget. So its last chance is in the taste. Let's see how it did. Okay, so obviously visually this one looks a bit better than this store-bought one, but let's give them a taste. Okay, so that's very mild and it's quite oily actually. I don't really get a lot of flavor from it. Let me taste the soup. Yeah, still pretty oily, a bit of a soy sauce flavor in there. I'm not getting a lot of miso, but it's okay. Now let's try Joshua's one. Okay, quite different. Okay, this is definitely more of a Western style ramen. It definitely tastes more like the kind of ramen that I might get in London rather than what I might get here. There's definitely more of the garlic flavors to it and the ginger, and it has more of a meaty flavor to it than this one, which is a bit more oily. I have to say, I was expecting a little bit more from this, the way that Joshua always reacts at the end of his videos, but it was definitely better than instant ramen, and it's definitely better than my local ramen shop. But I am the one who made it, so let's see what someone else has to say. So this is my boyfriend and he wants to remain faceless, but I have blindfolded him and he is going to try one of the ramen. Can you take it?
This is...
Okay, I'll bring it to your face. Okay. Oh, what does it taste like?
So I can't cuss, right?
No.
I mean, it tastes kind of cheap. It doesn't strike me with a lot of depth. Maybe miso? I don't know.
Okay.
Miso.
Now let's try the next one.
It's a really weird feeling. Here's the problem. I need to slurp to taste the soup and the noodle at the same time, but I don't know if it's super appropriate.
Oh, you can slurp. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit more exciting.
Okay, so, well, which one do you prefer?
I guess yours.
Yay! Okay, well.
But I mainly taste the love.
Well, that's sweet too. So there you go. Joshua Weissman's miso ramen wins over the local Japanese chain miso ramen. But it wasn't an overwhelming win, and I have to say that taken into account the price and convenience, I'm much more likely to go and buy a bowl of miso ramen than I am to make this again. But it will be useful if I ever move out of Japan and don't have a local ramen restaurant. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and I'll see you next Sunday.